Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Parish Podcast. I am Tom Hafer. I'm the Communications and Media Director here at the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, and I'm very happy today to welcome our guest for this episode of the Parish Podcast, our Grants Director, Jennifer Cobian. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for having me.
The Parish Podcast is a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, and it is produced by the Communications and Media Department. We are, and we're pretty strict about this, a government jargon and acronym-free zone. I think it's going to be really tough on our guest today.
I'm going to try my best
to live by our rules. And in fact, for today's episode only, I'm by executive fiat declaring FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to be usable in today's episode. I don't think we can make it through without saying FEMA just a few times. So congratulations. The first ever exemption in Parish Podcast history. Okay, listen, let's go ahead and get started with first some recent news. There was a news release that came out from Congressman Higgins' office sometime last month, and it regarded a $9 million grant for elevating or removing flood-prone homes in Calcasieu Parish. This is one of the grants that you and your department applied for and handled. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is a grant that we received under our Hurricane Laura disaster allocation. So after we have a major disaster in our area, FEMA will set aside a certain percentage of funds for communities to use to help build back stronger or other mitigation efforts. And one of the mitigation efforts that FEMA allows is for residential floodproofing. And floodproofing in this case means elevating the structure out of harm's way or completing a buyout of the structure so that that resident can go move elsewhere. And so we began this process almost immediately after Hurricanes Laura and Delta, especially after Delta. Yeah. We had numerous residents reaching out to us, and so we worked to put together those grant applications. So this one that was just awarded was one of 3 that we submitted for residential mitigation projects, and it is comprised of 47 structures total. So the majority are elevations, but some buyouts in there, and that's usually the citizens' election. Like they can pick which method they want to go with, and so we're really excited about this. We're able to, there's not as many rules on this particular program as there are in our annual grants that we go for every year. And so we were able to pick up homeowners who had been waiting a long time to be placed on a grant. So it was a really good opportunity for the parish.
So did they have to have the same number of repetitive flood problems, or is that different in this Hurricane Laura recovery?
Yeah, the big difference in this one is that there was not a requirement to have flood insurance at the time of application. Gotcha. And so if for whatever reason the policy lapsed or they never had flood insurance, we were able to pick those residents up. And so in a lot of cases it was, some folks who couldn't maybe afford flood insurance for whatever reason and various reasons. So we were able to get those on. So it was a big win for the parish.
This is the Parish Podcast. I'm Tom Hafer, the host, and our guest today is Jennifer Cobian. She is the Grants Director for the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. Jennifer, let's meet you a little bit and let our listeners know who we're speaking to. Tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been here at the parish, and where are you from?
I am from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I live in Moss Bluff. I grew up here, went to Sam Houston High School, go Broncos, and went to McNeese, graduated with a degree in accounting. I began working at a public accounting firm here in Lake Charles, went and got my MBA and my CPA, did accounting work, so accounting and tax work for small businesses and individuals, and then this opportunity came up at the parish to work on grants, and it was a pretty seamless transition over a lot of federal regs and rules and financial reporting, so really cool opportunity.
Great. Well, it's great to have you here. How long have you been with the parish?
A little over 9 years now.
Excellent. So you mentioned briefly that the rules for these grants are complicated. You and I are technically, we're bureaucrats, right? But we're kind of small time.
Yep.
The people who write these laws and then administer the grants, they're the real major league bureaucrats.
Yeah, they really
and so there are, if people are interested in this, there are a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of rules and regulations that have to be met to get through these grants. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think the biggest thing is especially when we're dealing with federal grants and those federal rules, they're written for all communities across the entire nation. And so we're having to sort of fit our parish, our needs, our own ways of working into these larger sets of rules and everything. And so I find it fun. I don't know if most people would find that fun, but I actually like trying to figure out how do we make this work and we can, you know, meet our local, state, federal requirements across the board and reconcile it. And really enjoy that. Also really enjoy being a voice for our community, because that's a big piece of it too. We're often working with not just staff in Baton Rouge from state agencies, but we work with FEMA Region 6 out of Dallas, Texas. We'll work with different agencies who are headquartered in Washington, D.C. They do not know where Lake Charles is, what is a police jury, and so it's definitely humbling. But being able to be that voice for our citizens and to express what it is that we need and what would work for us, and trying to get everyone on the same page.
I'm going to jump ahead in what I'd planned now, and I'm going to play some comments that we had recorded earlier for some videos that our department produced. They are the comments of two different families that had their homes mitigated through one of the programs. So this is Phyllis and Gary Poole.
I don't remember how I found out about the grant, but we applied for it. I guess we applied for it late and we didn't make the cut, so to speak. Then the next year, Natasha Willis with the parish called me and said, "We're doing a grant again this year. Would y'all still like to apply?" And I said yes, because we didn't know what we would do. We would never be able to sell the house because it had flooded so many times. So we were grateful that she called us and kind of brought it back to our attention.
We had kind of given up on it after we didn't make the cut, and when finishing the repairs, we didn't put the insulation back. We replaced the sheetrock, but then I put like plastic or fiberglass baseboards a foot high everywhere, and I was just planning to let the next flood open the doors and let it go through and pull the baseboards and let it air out and move on. But
that was going to be our life.
That was the way we were planning to move forward.
And now this is Kathleen Morrissey.
My husband heard about this grant program through a friend of his and wanted to apply for it. I was real hesitant about it. I just didn't understand it, and he went to talk to him just on a lark, and it was like the last week that you could apply. So we went ahead and applied, and that was in 2019, and we heard early 2020, I think, that we were accepted and that we would be part of the process. It's been about a 1.5 year or so process, but we're so grateful that we were able to take part in this.
So these were videos that we made highlighting the program, and it must give you personally quite a great bit of satisfaction to hear these people who were kind of lost and sort of at wit's end. And in the Poole's case, they were talking about just repeatedly flooding over and over again and just dealing with it. And then you were able to get that information to them and make a difference in their lives.
Yeah, it is certainly rewarding whenever it comes to fruition, because it is usually a very long process from when they first reach out and we get caught up on their situation and we're gathering information for the grant application, and then working through that application and to award. We could be talking 2 to 3 years, and so it's definitely some long-standing relationships with some of our homeowners by the time we get to the point that we're actually mitigating their home. And so yeah, absolutely rewarding. definitely do a celebration whenever these grant awards come in.
In one of these cases, they actually found out that they were possibly eligible again because your staff called them. How cool is that?
Yeah, absolutely. We keep running logs of information. So whenever it could be even our drainage district guys who are out in the field, they know what we do, and so they're calling and relaying information about houses that flood. Our own staff out in the field, to police jurors calling, to the cities calling, neighbors who have heard about this program. All that information comes in. We also have the FEMA repetitive loss data that we go to. So, and we can see those dollar amounts and just know the severity of the flooding based on those dollar amounts. So yeah, oftentimes we are reaching directly out to the homeowners to see if they're interested in the program because they might not even know about it.
This is the Parish Podcast. We are talking with our grants director here at the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, Jennifer Cobian. And we talked mostly earlier about the hurricane relief funding, but you also mentioned that there is an annual program for this. Are these people that we just spoke to, were they in the annual program? And how does that work, and how do you qualify for that?
Yeah, they were on the annual program that came down that we apply for each year before we receive this large allocation due to the disasters. So it is typically 2 or more flood claims, and the flood insurance must be maintained on the property from the time of the application through completion and beyond. And so those are our 2 biggest sort of boxes that we have to check. We have in the to not break any rules. I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there.
Okay.
I'm not going to explain anymore.
It's too much jargon.
I was about to say they got to meet a FEMA BCA, but so yeah, no, I'll go into way too much jargon. But there is quite a few rules and requirements to be able to be placed on there. We comb through that, develop a priority list and sort of our plan of attack, and we go after them. We've had a really good opportunity over the last few years to really build up our residential program. So we started with our initial disasters of Rita and Ike, and then those allocations, and that's how we sort of learned about how to do these grants and how it works. And then over the last few years, when FEMA began rolling out very large appropriations to these flood mitigation programs at the federal level, we started submitting our applications, and these are competitive. So we're competing across the nation to get these grants awarded. And so we learned how to do that, got pretty good at that. It was, so we've built upon it. Every year it's gotten a little bigger and a little bigger, but the more we can do, the more people we help, so it all comes full circle.
And the need has become greater as the same time.
The need has become greater, so it has worked out that that while our need has become greater over the years, the allocations at the federal level for these programs has also increased. So we've been able to tap into that and help some of our homeowners who otherwise would have been in really hard circumstances.
I want to talk briefly about another program. It's not specifically ours, but it also involves similar funding, grant funding, and that is the Greenwich Terrace neighborhood and the program that is buying out homes there for really an entire neighborhood that was severely impacted over the last 10 or 15 years by flooding. Talk about that program and where it stands right now, and what was our role in it?
Sure. So we, a lot of what we're doing here at the local level, we see being done at the state level and at the federal level. And one of the initiatives at the state level is the Watershed Initiative, which has a lot of the same philosophies where they're looking at how can we reduce flood risk, is it elevating, is it drainage projects, is it buyouts? And they have this buyout program that they put money into, and then identified the Greenwich Terrace neighborhood as an eligible neighborhood to be part of this program. So they reached out to us. It was, I would say days, maybe the next day or maybe a couple of days after our offices were not open. It was right after the May flood, and we received a call saying, look, we want to go ahead and make this public, and we've been working on it. Now's the time. And so we helped sort of facilitate the communication to the residents. It is a state program, but these are our homeowners at the same time, and these are our citizens. So we want to make sure that the program works for our community, works for our citizens, and we can help, be that liaison between citizens and the state agencies and make sure it is implemented the way, to best benefit our residents.
Great. So when we did our citizen survey last year, drainage and flooding
Absolutely.
were continuously mentioned as one of the main issues that the police jury needs to focus on. And because it was in that survey and because of what the jurors have indicated, it became a very important part of our strategic planning initiative. And that's dating back to even prior to Delta and the May 21st flood.
Right.
We were getting that all the time. This is part of and you mentioned the watershed initiative. These are all parts of a multifaceted approach that we have to dealing with drainage and flooding. Talk about that multifaceted approach that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. There are just multiple, moving parts happening, but what's great is that everything does seem to be on the same page, meaning we have our strategic plan happening and we're getting feedback about the need for drainage improvement and reduced flooding, while at the same time our strategic plan prioritizing drainage improvement projects, with the watershed initiative coming out at the same time, because the state has the same issue on their hands, and so we're able to play a major role in just flooding in general across the United States is a major issue. So FEMA realizing how many losses annually. So thankfully we're not alone in this boat, and that we're able to have programs like the Louisiana Watershed Initiative and then FEMA's programs that we can work through. But related to strategic planning, our first strategic plan prioritized drainage improvement projects, and I don't remember the exact wording of our plan, shame on me, but it was something along the lines of, seek federal funding and prioritize drainage improvement. So that mission was very clear, and when we received our disaster allocation immediately after the Laura and Delta, we were able to sort of take that guidance that was set forth in our strategic plan and say, okay, we know what we need to do. We need to go heavy and hard on the drainage projects. And that's what we did. And we've got a number of, I would think it was 80 or 83% of our disaster allocation is going towards drainage. So we're able to align our, what we've put on papers, our mission to what we're actually doing.
And these projects are proposed, and you're still hoping to get funding for them. Some of them are going to happen whether we have to pay for them or not. Other ones we're really going to rely on the federal government for their help in.
Yes, we are expecting a long road ahead of us to actually receive that funding. So right now, all that has been submitted are initial project applications. So we're waiting on the green light from FEMA to say, yes, those are good projects. They align with this funding source. Now you can go design and study and do a full benefit cost analysis, go get your core permits, all those things that are going to take, honestly, years to be able to do. And then we get to reapply to FEMA after all of that's done, have them take another look at the whole project after it's designed and studied, and then give us a green light and funding for construction. So we are, I would say, 3 to 5 years out from actually turning dirt on any of those projects. And so that's why we're also not talking a
Right.
whole lot about them just
Yeah.
because they're so far away.
And these things could be everything from more detention ponds on a
Yes.
regional basis for watersheds to studies to all kinds of different things, right?
Yeah, studies, regional detention, obviously our issue here, we've got a big stormwater capacity issue, so some regional detention coming in, also some lateral widening,
Right, yep.
and a little, shore stabilization along those laterals, and yeah, just it's all throughout the parish. We've got a need from every corner of the parish, and so these projects are spread out all around.
This is the Parish Podcast. I'm Tom Hafer. I'm the Communications and Media Director here at CPPJ, and Grants Director Jennifer Cobian is our guest. We have talked a lot about some of these home buyouts and those types of things, but your department is involved in lots of other types of grants. What are the Restore grants and what do they do?
Sure, yeah, we have Coastal under our umbrella, which is great and really enjoy that. It all ties back to flood risk reduction, resiliency as a community. So with the coastal grants we've got, we were allocated a little over $2 million under the Restore Act, and we are teaming up with Cameron Parish to do part of the rock breakwater project out at Rockefeller Refuge, which is great. It, again, just that holistic approach to making our community more resilient from flood risk reduction to hurricane risk reduction and all of those things. So we do have coastal. We've also got recently we're awarded water sector grants, which are related to water utilities so that we can upgrade water lines in some of our water districts throughout the parish, and that's a really great thing and much needed. And we also work on disaster recovery grants, more along the lines of economic development, corridor infrastructure, and things like that will tie back to some community development block grants that we administer. So those are coming up, and we're about to start doing some project planning on those, so that's really exciting.
You did not use the acronym
I
for
did
Community
not.
Development Block Grant.
I was
Congratulations.
so
That was
proud
really
of
good.
myself.
Jennifer, you have been a phenomenal guest. Just a huge pile of information that you brought to us just off the top of your head. For people who might be interested in these grants, how can they reach you or in your office?
Yeah, they can reach out to us by emailing mitigationgrants@calcasieu.gov. We've also got some information up on our website at calcasieu.gov, or they could give us a call at 721-3500.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. To our listeners who want more information on any of our CPPJ programs or on this podcast, you can visit calcasieu.gov. Please follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, the phone number here at the parish is 721-3500. We say thank you once again to Jennifer Cobian,
Thank you so much.
our grants director, for being with us here on this edition of the Parish Podcast. The Parish Podcast is a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury's Communications and Media Department. I'm your host, Tom Hafer, thanking you for being with us and saying so long.